This building is called Hammam Yalbuga, a Mamluk-era public bath that was built in 1491. To understand the significance of Epstein's temple, we have to dig into the past of the Mamluks. Mamluks, also spelled Mamluk, were a class of people, mostly of Turkic or Caucasian ethnicity, who served as slave soldiers between the 13th and 16th century in the Islamic world spanning from Egypt to Syria. The name Mamluk is derived from an Arabic word meaning slave, which actually comes from the 10th century AD. They were known as the ones that defeated the Mongols and the Crusaders and established a dynasty that lasted hundreds of years. There are two distinct periods during the Mamluk reigns. The first period saw the Bahari dynasty that ruled Egypt between 1250 and 1382 AD. This dynasty would import young slaves, mainly Qipchak Turks from Central Asia, and groom them to be warriors. They were more in common with the Mongols than with the peoples of Egypt and Syria, among whom they lived with, while making sure they did not mix with the locals. The second period saw the rise of the Burji Circassian dynasty, which ruled from 1382 to 1517 AD. The Circassian Mamluks were white slaves that were taken from the northern Caucasus Mountains and traded in slave markets. They were captured in their early childhood, usually around 13 years of age, by the sultans who raised them in special military camps to become soldiers for the ruling class. Many of the sultans were of Circassian origin themselves and were acquired as slaves by previous sultans. These Circassians converted to Islam and became freed after rising within the ranks of the military by proving their loyalty. This is the period that is relevant to this report, so let's explore further. Quote from the book A Military History of Modern Egypt, from the Ottoman Conquest to the Ramadan War. Quote, by the late 14th century, Circassians from the North Caucasus region had become the majority in the Mamluk ranks. End quote. From Wikipedia, quote, while Mamluks were purchased as property, their status was above ordinary slaves, who were not allowed to carry weapons or perform certain tasks. In places such as Egypt, from the Ayyubid dynasty to the time of Muhammad Ali of Egypt, Mamluks were considered to be true lords and true warriors, with social status above the general population in Egypt and the Levant. In a sense, they were like enslaved mercenaries. Here's what Voltaire had to say about the Circassians. The Circassians are poor and their daughters are beautiful, and indeed it is in them they chiefly trade. They furnish with those beauties the seraglio of the Turkish Sultan, of the Persian Sofi, and of all those who are wealthy enough to purchase and maintain such precious merchandise. These maidens are very honorably and virtuously instructed how to fondle and caress men, are taught dances of a very polite and effeminate kind, and how to heighten by the most voluptuous artifices the pleasures of their disdainful masters from whom they are designed. End quote. Now let's go over the significance of the Mamluk architecture in relation to Epstein's temple. The Mamluk style of architecture was considered eclectic because it borrowed from different cultures and was integrated into their own in accordance with that which suited the function and ideology of the Muslims. Throughout the Mamluk Empire, you will find many buildings, especially mosques, using what we know today as the oblak style. Oblak is an architectural style involving alternating or fluctuating rows of light and dark stone. Although the oblak style isn't unique to the Mamluks, they utilized the oblak lighting effects heavily, which was a dominant feature throughout the empire. They basically made it their own. This architectural decision was also pushed by the Sufis, who are the Islamic mystics, according to their interpretation of Islam. They were similar to the Gnostics of Christians, the so-called illuminated ones. Here are some quotes from a couple of Sufis from that area. Quote, "Reason is God's shadow. God is the sun. What power has the shadow before the sun?" A quote from Jalal Muhammad. Quote, "The cosmos is all darkness. It is illumined by the manifestation of God within it. Whoever sees the cosmos and does not contemplate Him in it, or by it, or before it, or after it, is in need of light and is veiled from the sun of Gnosis by the clouds of created things." End quote, by Ata'Allah. Now let's explore the meaning behind Epstein's temple. Is Epstein's temple an ode to the Mamluk era of when captured children were taken as slaves to do the bidding of the elite class? During that era, young boys were taken and groomed to later become soldiers, while young girls were taken and groomed to later become personal concubines of their masters. Do you now see the parallel between the Mamluks and Epstein? These people are sick.